Now, in this presentation, I'll be giving an overview of the assistive technology needs assessment process in the context of providing an assistive technology needs assessment for a client. And I suppose before we start there, it's important to outline what is assistive technology. Now, there are lots of various definitions for that, but one of the definitions that I like is the following: a technology intervention that enables a person undertake a goal or activity in which they cannot undertake for themselves. So in the context of that, you have an assistive technology tool and you have an activity in which the client cannot undertake without interfacing with an assistive technology intervention. And another aspect to consider as well is in regards to the environment in which the activity is being carried out and the technology where it can be used as well. So that could be, for example, in an education setting, or it could be in a home setting, or it could be indeed anywhere where the client wishes to use it. And so that is basically it. In terms of the assistive technology needs assessment itself, there's a number of stages. So there's the first stage, which is the referral stage of the client for an assistive technology assessment. And then from there, we have the assessment itself, where the client meets with the assistive technology professional. And following on from that, then there is a recommendation and report where the assistive technology professional writes that, composes that report. And then from there, we have an implementation phase, training and so forth, follow-up, and a follow-along. And this is in the context of assistive technology interventions that would be used for the duration of the client's life. So it's important to factor that in as well. Now, in regards to the assistive technology assessment process, one establishes the goals during that meeting. This is just a brief overview of what occurs at the meeting. One establishes the goals of the client. One brings in the stakeholders, all of the stakeholders, not just the client. So in some instances, the client may have an occupational therapist. Other service providers could include a physical therapist. If the client is underage, it's also important to include the parents as the stakeholders and to get consensus in regards to what the goals are for the client and what interventions would best suit them. So during that process as well, then there are a number of assistive technology solutions provided for the client, an overview of the advantages and disadvantages to both. And that's just a brief overview of the process itself. And then from there, then there is the recommendation, which provides an assessment report, which is quite in depth, outlining equipment prescribed and also costs involved and things of such nature. And then in terms of implementation and follow-up, following on from that, it's important to outline the implementation phase, which would be the ordering of the equipment, delivery and fitting, training of the equipment. And again, there are important aspects to consider there as well, in particular in the context of equipment that can be quite expensive. So for example, in relation to assistive technology equipment for environmental control systems, these could cost substantial amount of money. So it's important to get it right in the first instance and prevent client abandonment of technology. That's probably the core outcome of the assistive technology needs assessment process. Maintenance and repair, again, is another aspect to consider. It's not just the technology. If the technologies are going to be implemented for the duration of the lifetime of the client, then you have to factor in maintenance over that duration of time. And also, as well as that, you could have new technologies being developed and introduced, which may benefit the client. That's another aspect to consider. And therefore, following along then, it would be feasible for the client to be reevaluated over time in terms of looking at maintenance again and repair. And again, this is important because it's not just the needs assessment process doesn't just stop there. Depending on the client's challenges in terms of their difficulties, their disabilities, it could be that the client has a progressive condition where over time it gets worse, or it could be stabilized. But either which way, it's important to look at the broader picture in terms of the lifetime of the client and what technologies can benefit them. Now, looking more further detail at the assessment meeting during that meeting process, it's based on an analysis, basically gathering the information in regards to the client, their sensory abilities, range of motion, language, physical impairments, visual, etc., etc., and introducing technologies to the client, getting the client to try out the technologies, and from there then the client can give feedback to the assistive technology officer in terms of or the assistive technology professional in terms of whether they like the technology tool. Is there an outcome when using it? Can we see a marked benefit in terms of timing when using the technology? And that's during the evaluation aspect. And then quite simply we ask ourselves at the end of the introduction, can that technology meet the goal of the client? And if the client feels no, it's not the case, then we go back to the analysis, reintroducing a new technology tool and then following through again the steps in terms of that. Now, another aspect to point out is that the final decision in regards to any technological intervention is resting with the client, and that includes the client that is underage, because they are the person that will be using the tools. And again, it's important to ensure that we don't impose technology on the client, leading to possibly a technology abandonment in the future. And that leads to various cost implications as well. So it's an iterative process of introduction of technologies, analysis, seeing what the feedback is from the client, and then if it meets the objectives, we progress to the next stage, which is as outlined above, the report writing and so forth. Now, in regards to the client goals, again, this is what the end result of the technology is, to meet those goals. There are two types of goals. There are the short-term goals in relation to, it's important to outline the difference between both. So the short-term goals and the long-term goals. And why is that? Because, again, as stated, the expense of the assistive technology interventions, some of those tools can be quite expensive. In terms of the categories then, the benefits, the overall arching goals for all clients would be improved independence, improved function, improved health, improved safety and comfort, device mastery and appropriate use. So again, that lends itself into the training aspect of technology as well, in regards to making sure that the client is fully competent in using the technologies. And so that is basically an overall outline of the assistive technology needs assessment process. If you have any comments, questions, or even challenges in regards to what's been outlined here, please feel free to email, and thank you for watching.